I regret treating my body like that so much. Hey y'all, what's poppin' off? Welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new here. I appreciate you so much for being here. Today we're going to be talking about body image. So in reference to body image in particular, we'll be talking about body dysphoria and body dysmorphia. If you're not familiar with those two words, I highly encourage you to look that up prior to starting. In addition, this may be triggering for some folks. In regards to triggering topics, we'll be talking about things such as eating disorders, as well as self-harm, and things that fall into those categories. So I would highly recommend you not to proceed if you feel as if those things will trigger you. Of course, I don't want to put anyone in a negative space, but I do want to put that out there before we begin. So because I'm still not completely comfortable talking on camera, just me with myself, I want to do something while I'm getting started on these topics. So I will be doing my makeup and getting ready. So as usual, the first thing I'm gonna do is put up my hair. My hair is so wet, so I apologize if I look greasy in this lighting. Okay, so starting from the beginning, I should tell you some stuff about myself. So, hello, my name is Holly Woods, Holly Marie Woods, as you could see on my YouTube channel. I think I grabbed way too much of this, but here we are. And we're still gonna use it. Yeah, so my name is Holly Marie Woods. I live in Southern California. I identify with they, them pronouns. I identify as non-binary. I also identify as pansexual. So I have a lot of labels that define who I am. But with that being said, I'd like to emphasize that I am a white person. So a lot of what I may be saying may not apply to folks who are Black or people of color, and of course may not even apply to other white folks. But I did want to share my unique experience with my body image and things that I have gone through. So now that we've got those things out of the way, I will jump into it. So I personally have never had a healthy outlook on my body. So even when I was younger, I would say I can't pinpoint a date in my life that I first was like, oh wow, I hate my body, or I don't like my body. But I know that it was something that I felt as if was instilled in me when I was younger. For example, I have an older sister. I don't talk about my older sister, but I have an older sister. She's about 7 years older than me, so, you know, pretty old, or pretty much older than me. So within my family, I would see the way that they talked about my older sister's body. And I didn't like the way that they talked about my older sister's body, but I definitely still instilled it within me. So I would say from ages like, I don't know, maybe like 11 and below, the image of my sister's body was what I should be or shouldn't be, depending on that point in time and depending on what she looked like at that point in time. So this was instilled in me not only by my parents, but by like other family members, like my grandmother, my aunts. For example, if they thought that she was getting fat, then they would be very angry with her. And I remember they used to call her the Spanish word for cow, so they would say vaca all the time. Or they would call her just a cow, or they would just be very rude and insulting to her body, to the point where I viewed it that way as well. So when they would say mean things, I would be like, oh yeah, well, since my sister's fat and I look like my sister, I'm fat as well. So I had those things instilled in me, as well as just a very unhealthy relationship with food. So for me, at first, my food disorder, the way I treated food, I have not been diagnosed, but the way I treated food was I would overeat a lot, or I would binge eat. I would starve myself and not allow myself to eat for days or a day or two, and then I would be like, okay, I can eat now, and I would overdo what I should eat. So I never really had a healthy relationship with food. I lived in Paris, California, which is in the Inland Empire, and I wouldn't say we necessarily had a great access to food to begin with, since I did grow up poor. Yeah, I typically say poor. I don't say low income, because we didn't really have money to eat a lot of the times. So I don't think that low income really categorizes the severity of the like conditions which I grew up in. But with that being said, it was just not only difficult for me to like have a healthy relationship with food, it was just the things surrounding that. So not only my community, but my family and things like that. So moving up until I was able to have my own thought about my own body, right? I used my sister for what was categorized as good or bad. But as soon as I started hitting like preteen level me, so when I turned like after 11, turned 12, 13, and I started to grow into puberty and all of those things, and I started to develop in different ways. I'm not talking about my mentality, I mean physically I was developing things such as my breasts, and I was much more curvier than I had previously been. I was very, very viciously, I don't think that sounds like the right word for someone who may have never experienced this, but very viciously sexualized. So in my mind, that was very difficult, just because I didn't know what age I should be. Like obviously I had my literal age, so like 12, 13, but I didn't know what age I should be, because I had all these individuals sexualizing me in different ways. But I personally was like, oh, that's not the way I'm supposed to be. Like, I'm still a child. Like, my parents tell me I'm still a child. Society tells me I'm still a child, but I'm still being treated as if I'm this thing to lust after. So that's around 12 and 13. And I still had those thoughts in the back of my head, even though I would say I was very tiny. I remember when I was younger, I was like probably 5'6" and 120 pounds, which is nowhere near where I'm at right now. And if I'm 5'6" and 120 pounds, that's tiny. Like, that's a very tiny individual. And especially because during that time I was like much more active, so I had a lot more muscle on me. So it was around the time like 11 to 13 when I started going to middle school. I started wearing girdles. So I had always seen my mom wear girdles, and she grew up in the 80s, so she was like, high-waisted pants are my girdles. So I mean, I'm a big fan of high-waisted pants as a thick person right now. But yeah, so she wore high-waisted pants, and she always wore girdles. So her girdles were like her safe haven. And my mom is, I believe, 6'1", and she's a very skinny woman. Like one of those model skinny women. Like she's consistently throughout my life, she's been like 130 and 6'1". So she's very tiny, and I saw my mother, who's this very tiny individual, still hating on her body and not liking her body. So that really instilled something in me. Anyways, so going back to my middle school days. When I was in middle school, I developed this thing where not only did I have my eating where I didn't want to eat very frequently, if at all, but I developed a real like hatred for whatever my mom and dad cooked, because I'd be like, this is too fat. Because my brother was in football and things like that, and he would have to be like beef up. Like, he had the fastest metabolism in the world. Like, I swear, like everything went directly through him, because obviously he's going through puberty as well. My brother's older than me, about 2 years older than me, and he's going through puberty while I'm also going through puberty, but like my metabolism isn't at the level that his is. So I'm very angry with my parents about making all this like fatty food because my brother needs to gain weight, but I'm here and I am hating my body and I feel as if I need to lose weight. And there are so many things that go into this, but anyways, I'm just trying to give you context for what my 7th grade looked like. And obviously, you know, middle school, if you've been through middle school, if you're going through middle school right now, it's a tough time. It's a tough time to be alive because our kids just are more emboldened during middle school, I would say. Not only are they disrespectful to their teachers, but they're disrespectful to each other. They're not as yet in tune with their emotions, so they may lash out on other folks. I mean, adults now still lash out on other folks. But we can get to that in another video. More of the story is like, this is a very heightened time during middle school. So something that I remember that I would do consistently is, my father is a bigger man. And my dad told me about when he needed to lose weight quick. When he was in the Navy, what he would do is like wear very baggy clothes and wrap cellophane around his belly. But he didn't really explain to me that that's going to be water weight that you're losing. He just told me that, oh, that's how I would lose weight quick if you needed to. Anyways, so what I would do every day when I went to school is I would at least wear one girdle and ace bandage myself. That's at a minimum. So in the 7th grade when I started this, at a minimum, I would wear an ace bandage around my stomach to suck it in because I didn't want to have any hips or anything like that because I just felt I didn't want to be sexualized. So I'd wear an ace bandage around my waist and also a girdle on top of that to really suck anything in I could. Yeah, so that's at minimum what I would wear. Some days I would wear cellophane, then the ace bandage, then then a girdle. And then I remember I had this belt, one of those thick belts. I don't have any one of those anymore, but I would wear that on like top of my clothes to try to disguise any lumpiness or something because I didn't want people to know that I was wearing girdles and all of that. I remember developing in middle school like this very uncomfortable thought of people touching me. Like I didn't want anyone touching me in any way, like whether that was a shoulder touch, a hug, anything like that, because I didn't want people to look at my body and I didn't want people to touch or feel my body because they would know that, oh, Holly, you're wearing a girdle. Like, why are you wearing a girdle? And then they're going to question my insecurities. So that was 7th and 8th grade, which is when middle school was for me. Okay. I said I was going to do my face, but I'm not really feeling it right now. Maybe I'll do it after I'm done filming. This feels like a very quick synopsis. If y'all want me to elaborate on anything down in the comments, I can do my best. Anyways, more of the story. So that was middle school, and obviously there are way more things that went into it, but that's just a quick synopsis of how I felt about my body. During that point in time, like I had already known at that point, I had already known that I was in some way identifying as queer. I did not label it as queer when I was younger. I knew that I liked girls as well as liking boys, but I didn't really have the opportunity because of the way that I was brought up by my parents. I didn't really have the opportunity to explore like what is being LGBTQ mean to me and what type of community I wanted to develop. In the 9th grade, that's when I first got my thought process that maybe I didn't identify as a woman or as a female, and that was like very hard to grapple with because I grew up in this very Christian home where we were just not very accepting, and I knew that if I altered from a gender binary then I would not really be welcome. So in terms of body image in the 9th grade, something that I started to do is every Friday I would bring extra clothes to school on top of like all of my books and stuff like that because I was very passionate about school. Is I would bring extra clothes and they were my brother's clothes. This is back when I could fit into my brother's clothes. So I would wear my brother's clothes at school, and I would ask folks to call me Brad, which I think that on some level I felt a lot of guilt about it, because I didn't know why or why I was experimenting with any of that. I just assumed like, haha, this is me being funny. But I think that it was genuinely something that I wanted. So that was in ninth grade. And then I remember my mother figured out that I was bringing clothes to school, and that I was asking people to call me Brad. And no, I don't remember or don't know how someone found out, but they did. And I decided, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore, because I don't want to get in trouble. So I stopped that in the ninth grade, but my patterns from middle school still continued on. In the 10th grade, that's when I joined the cheer team. I had done cheer before when I was in the 6th grade, and like not in school did I do cheer, but I still did like competitive cheer and all of that. But then I was like, I want to do a sport, and there were just a number of things that didn't allow me to go join other teams. So I wanted to join like the softball team, or I wanted to join the basketball team. And my parents really played into stereotypes of what those players should be. And they were like, you're not any of that. So I wasn't allowed to try out for those things. So they wanted me to try out to be a cheerleader. So I was like, okay, fine. Like, I'll try out to be a cheerleader. And in retrospect, I think that was only because my brother was a football player, so it was going to be just easier for them if I was something that focused on him. I joined the cheer team in 10th grade. I'm on junior varsity in the 10th grade. Everything's going great. I love performing. I am a theatrical ass bee. And by bee, I mean bitch. So there it is in 10th grade. Everything's going okay. I'm not really meshing with the whole team vibe, but like, I'm still there, and it's what my parents wanted me to do, so obviously I'm going to try to do it. So then we get into the 11th grade. And the 11th grade, I think, is where my body issues started more, because that's when I made varsity. And I would say that just about everyone on the varsity cheer squad was skinny. So it had that like perfect model of like what you should be as a cheerleader or something like that. And at this point in my life, I want to reiterate, like, I was in no way fat. But boy, oh boy, did I treat myself like I was something that was grotesque. And I'd like to emphasize that in no way are fat people grotesque. Like, fat phobia is a real thing. But because I had instilled it in my mind, or like family had instilled it, that anything that weighed more than the perfect white person body was supposedly gross, I had instilled that in myself. So it was in the 11th grade where I started not really feeding myself. I would count calories heavily. And by heavily, it wasn't like, oh, I can't believe that I ate, I don't know, like 1,200 calories instead of eating like the recommended however many you should for who you are. Which, I mean, varies wildly. That number is not like a strict 2,000 calories for any person. That looks very different for very many people. I personally restricted me eating food to 300 calories a day, because I wanted to drop weight, and I wanted to drop weight fast. So I think it was a period of about 3 to 5 months when I only ate 300 calories a day. And I remember I gave up all these things. I was like, oh, I'm not going to eat bread anymore. I'm not going to drink soda anymore. And like, my parents only saw that aspect of it. They just saw, oh, like, Holly's taking out the bad things out of their life. But I wasn't. That's not what was going on. It was me trying not to eat. And I remember I lost a lot of weight, but did I feel good? No, I didn't feel good at all. Skinny and tight, if you will, toned. I still hated everything about my body. I think I got down to like 115. Like, I was so tiny. And I was like, I still hate my body just as much as I did before. And it was not it. Like, I regret treating my body like that so much. Circling to something else. So in 11th grade, I think, I don't know, I could be wrong. I think that's when I took dance. But I also could be misremembering the years. But I think in 11th grade is when I took dance. And I really liked dance. I liked the teacher. And I had a friend named Sean. Sean was in that class with me, and he was my first ever trans friend. And he taught me so much about the LGBTQ community, and particularly the trans community, and just different things, right? And it was very enlightening because where we particularly spent our time together was in drama club, but also was in dance class. And getting to talk to Sean was very, very helpful in like my own personal growth, because like I said, my parents didn't allow me to hang out with anyone who would have enriched my views on the LGBTQ community. So getting to talk with Sean was the first time that I really got to feel that sense of community. And I think, as I mentioned in the ninth grades, when I asked people to call me Brad and do all those things, and talking with Sean was the first time I ever felt validated in not being who I was assigned. Yeah. And that was really nice. But I think that after high school, it wasn't really it wasn't validated as much. It was more so in high school. Obviously, I had a lot of things that were taken care of by my family, such as, paying for the home we lived in, and being able to put food in our cabinets and stuff like that. But anyways, so moving on to college. College is where I kind of got the opportunity to discover my activism. It's important to celebrate your own identity. And I think that the first way that really influenced me is, for example, when I joined the student government at UCI, is during one of the fall quarter, maybe winter quarter meetings of my freshman year, when I was in the elections commission. That was under the office of the external vice president. The office of the external vice president, what their job is to be like the relations between the students and the state, local, and federal levels. But that's not only on a like formal way, such as like with the officials, but organizing students and making sure students know what's going on their campus. And one of the folks that they brought, or one of the groups they brought, were the Black Student Union. And I had never got to talk with the Black Student Union or ask questions or do any of those things. And it was very enlightening to like hear it directly from the communities that are impacted. College was a great time to start learning, but I think I put myself on the back burner because I was like, I need to learn about these other communities. I need to learn about like what is resistance, what is figuring yourself out, like how did other people do this, how can I do this, before I actually like dove into let me figure out myself, let me figure out my everything. So I spent most of college doing that. College was a really good time for me, especially because I took classes outside of my major. I came in as a math major and I left as a political science major. And honestly, like looking back, I wish I took up gender and sexualities as another major, or pardon me, as another minor. As a minor, I did not have a minor. Because I really got to explore what I meant to myself. I got to go to therapy for a bit, which has been fantastic. I got to learn a lot about myself. I think I'm gonna cut this off right here. At this point in time with my body, I'd like to just emphasize that, like, I'm not perfect with my body. I still don't like my body sometimes, but I've really gained the skills through therapy to reaffirm myself and tell myself, like, you don't need to be saying this to yourself. You don't need to be doing anything negative to yourself. One of the most helpful things that my therapist ever told me was be the parent that you wanted to have, not the parent that I had. So I try to think about always being a good parent to myself, to never say anything to myself that would be hurtful or demeaning. And if I do say it, then to take a step back and be like, you didn't need to do that to yourself. So I'm always working on trying to be a better parent to myself. Yeah, there's probably a lot more that I could add into this, but I don't want this video to be too long, because especially if some of y'all are barely getting to know me, you may not really want to start off like this. Thank you so much. My name is Holly. I appreciate you for being here. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do all of that hullabaloo, and I appreciate you so much. Bye-bye.